For thousands of years, long before stainless steel factories, pasteurization laws, and supermarket cartons, milk was consumed as nature intended, raw, living, and deeply nourishing. And in medieval societies, it was not merely a beverage but a pillar of survival, strength, and resilience, consumed fresh from grass-fed animals whose health directly determined the quality of the milk they produced. This milk was rich with natural enzymes, beneficial bacteria, fat-soluble vitamins, and bioavailable nutrients that worked in harmony with the human body. And people understood this intuitively, not through laboratory studies, but through lived experience. Because food was medicine and agriculture was sacred. Yet as modernity advanced, convenience replaced connection, efficiency replaced ecology, and profit replaced wisdom, leading us to a system where milk is no longer a living food but an industrial product, stripped of its natural complexity through extreme heat treatments, mechanical separation, homogenization, and long-distance storage. Processes designed not for human vitality but for shelf life, mass distribution, and corporate scalability. Today, many people question why milk, once considered a symbol of health, has become associated with digestive discomfort, inflammation, and intolerance for so many. And while science continues to debate the causes, it is impossible to ignore that modern milk is fundamentally different from the milk our ancestors consumed, not just in processing but in origin, because cows are often confined, grain-fed, medicated, and stressed, producing milk that reflects an unnatural system, whereas medieval milk came from animals integrated into natural ecosystems, grazing diverse pastures that enriched the milk with nutrients modern diets rarely provide. This is not a call to reject science or romanticize the past blindly, but a challenge to question whether progress has truly improved our relationship with food, or whether we have sacrificed biological compatibility for industrial convenience, because when we remove the enzymes that help digest lactose, eliminate beneficial microbes that support gut health, and alter the fat structure through homogenization, we should not be surprised that the human body, shaped by evolution, not factories, responds with resistance. History reminds us that food systems once revolved around locality, seasonality, and respect for natural processes, whereas today they revolve around uniformity, speed, and profit margins. And in this transformation, something essential may have been lost, not just nutritionally but philosophically, as we shifted from asking, "Is this food alive and nourishing?" to "How long can this sit on a shelf?" The medieval world did not have modern disease patterns. Not because it was perfect, but because its food was closer to the rhythms of nature, and raw milk symbolized that closeness, a reminder that nourishment was once about synergy between land, animal, and human, not chemical intervention. The growing interest in traditional foods today is not a trend, but a signal, a collective intuition that our bodies remember something our minds have forgotten. And whether one chooses raw milk or not, the deeper lesson is undeniable. When we industrialize food beyond recognition, we must also accept responsibility for the consequences, because health does not begin in hospitals or pharmacies, but in soil, sunlight, and the integrity of what we consume. And until we confront the uncomfortable truth that modern food systems prioritize profit over physiology, we will continue to blame our bodies for rejecting products they were never designed to tolerate, while the wisdom of the past waits patiently to be rediscovered. For centuries, medieval civilizations thrive on foods that were deeply connected to nature, land, and tradition. And raw milk stood at the heart of this relationship as a living, whole food consumed fresh from pasture-raised animals, untouched by industrial processing, and rich in natural enzymes, beneficial bacteria, and vital nutrients that worked in balance with the human body. Milk was not feared, questioned, or modified because it came from healthy animals grazing on diverse grasses, herbs, and wild plants, creating a nutrient profile far more complex than anything found in modern cartons. And people trusted it because they understood food through experience rather than marketing or laboratory manipulation. Yet, as industrialization reshaped agriculture, milk slowly transformed from a sacred local nourishment into a mass-produced commodity, designed not to sustain human vitality but to survive transportation, storage, and profit-driven distribution. Subjected to pasteurization that kills not only harmful pathogens but also beneficial microbes, homogenization that alters fat molecules into unnatural structures, and standardization that removes the individuality of nature in favor of uniformity. And today we are left wondering why something once synonymous with strength, growth, and resilience now causes bloating, inflammation, allergies, and discomfort for millions, a question that cannot be answered honestly without acknowledging that modern milk is no longer the same substance our ancestors consumed. Beyond processing, the very source of milk has changed as animals are confined, grain-fed, medicated, and disconnected from natural ecosystems, producing milk that mirrors a stressed and artificial system. Whereas medieval milk reflected healthy soil, clean water, sunlight, and seasonal rhythms, and while modern science often isolates nutrients and debates intolerance in fragments, history offers a broader perspective that the human body evolved alongside traditional foods, not industrial substitutes. And when we remove nature's built-in digestive aids and replace them with mechanical efficiency, we disrupt a biological relationship refined over thousands of years. This is not an argument rooted in nostalgia or rejection of modern safety, but a call for awareness, because progress should enhance health rather than undermine it. And convenience should not come at the cost of compatibility, as the rising interest in ancestral diets and traditional foods reveals a collective realization that something essential has been lost in our pursuit of speed and scale, and raw milk becomes a symbol of a larger truth, that when food is stripped of life, diversity, and integrity, the human body responds with resistance, confusion, and illness, reminding us that true nourishment is not created in factories but cultivated through respect for nature, balance, and wisdom, passed down through generations. Wisdom that still speaks to us today if we are willing to listen. When we examine the story of milk through a wider historical and cultural lens, we begin to understand that the issue is not simply raw versus pasteurized, but tradition versus industrial disruption, because medieval societies did not consume food in isolation from its source. They lived within the food system, witnessing how animals grazed, how seasons changed flavor and quality, and how freshness determined vitality. And this intimacy created trust, accountability, and balance, whereas modern consumers are separated from production by layers of processing, branding, and regulation, leaving us disconnected from both the land and the consequences of what we consume. Milk in the medieval world was produced in small quantities, consumed locally, and respected as a perishable, living substance that demanded responsibility and clear-line-ness, not chemical intervention. And when problems arose, they were addressed at the level of animal health and environment, rather than by sterilizing the final product. But modern systems reverse this logic by tolerating unhealthy conditions upstream and attempting to fix the outcome through extreme processing, a strategy that prioritizes scale over quality and symptom management over root causes. As a result, milk becomes a product engineered to be safe for global transport rather than suitable for the human digestive system. And this shift reflects a broader pattern in modern food culture, where nourishment is measured by calories and shelf life instead of vitality and harmony, and where the human body is expected to adapt endlessly to altered foods, rather than food being produced in alignment with human biology. The growing discomfort many people associate with milk today can be seen not as a failure of the body, but as a signal, a reminder that biology has limits and memory, and that evolution does not move at the speed of industrial innovation. And while modern science excels at isolating variables, history reminds us that health emerges from complexity, synergy, and context, elements that cannot survive excessive standardization. This is why the discussion of medieval raw milk resonates so deeply in the modern world, because it challenges us to confront an uncomfortable question: have we mistaken technological control for nutritional progress, and in doing so traded resilience for convenience and wisdom for efficiency? And until we realign our food systems with principles that honor soil health, animal welfare, microbial diversity, and human compatibility, we will continue to debate symptoms without addressing causes, ignoring the lesson written clearly across history that, when food is alive, local, and respected, it nourishes not just the body, but the entire system that sustains life. Ultimately, the conversation around medieval raw milk forces us to confront a deeper truth about modern civilization itself, because milk is not the problem, it is the mirror, reflecting how far we have drifted from natural systems in our pursuit of control, speed, and profit. As medieval societies understood that food demanded responsibility, patience, and respect, and that preservation of health began with the care of land and animals, rather than the sterilization of outcomes. Yet modern food culture seeks to dominate nature instead of cooperating with it, replacing ecological intelligence with technological force. And when milk is heated, altered, standardized, and shipped across continents, it becomes symbolic of a larger philosophy that treats living systems as machines and human bodies as endlessly adaptable consumers, rather than biologically rooted beings. The rise of discomfort, confusion, and debate around milk consumption today should not be dismissed as coincidence, because it coincides precisely with the era in which food lost its locality, diversity, and relationship to time. And while modern science provides tools for safety and analysis, it cannot replace the evolutionary wisdom encoded in traditional practices that sustained populations for generations, practices that emphasized freshness, seasonal eating, microbial balance, and direct accountability. The medieval farmer knew that the quality of milk depended on the health of the cow, the richness of the pasture, and the cleanliness of the process, whereas modern systems often prioritize output over integrity, trusting that processing will compensate for imbalance, and in doing so, we shift the burden from producers to consumers, asking the human body to tolerate what nature never intended. This is why the renewed interest in ancestral foods is not rebellion, but remember. NCE, not rejection of progress, but a demand for progress with purpose, because true advancement should enhance life rather than simplify it into sterile uniformity and raw milk. Whether embraced or merely studied as a historical model, stands as a powerful reminder that nourishment is not just about nutrients on a label, but about relationships between soil and grass, animal and human, past and present. And until modern food systems are willing to restore those relationships, we will continue to experience food not as a source of strength and vitality, but as a subject of confusion, controversy, and compromise, while the wisdom of history waits, unchanged and uncompromised, for us to take it seriously once again.